You've probably had this happen to you. You help someone, you support them when they're down, you defend them when no one else will. And then, one day, out of nowhere, they turn on you. They criticize you. They spread rumors about you. They abandon you. And you're left standing there thinking, what did I do wrong? Here's the hard truth. Sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. The problem wasn't your help. The problem was what your help reflected back to them. And that brings us to one of the most powerful and uncomfortable ideas in psychology. An idea from Carl Jung. He called it the shadow. Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist who worked alongside Freud for years before breaking away to form his own school of thought. He spent his life studying the dark corners of the human mind. And one of his most important discoveries was this. Every single one of us has a shadow. The shadow is the part of our psyche that contains everything we refuse to admit about ourselves. Our hidden weaknesses, our secret envies, our selfish impulses, our fears, our shame. We don't like these things, so we push them down. We hide them. We pretend they don't exist. But they don't disappear. They just live underground. And here's the dangerous part. The shadow doesn't stay hidden forever. It leaks out. And one of the main ways it leaks out is through projection. Projection is when you take something you can't accept in yourself and you see it in someone else instead. It's a psychological trick your mind plays to protect your ego. For example, someone who is deeply insecure about their own intelligence will often go around calling other people stupid. Someone who struggles with dishonesty will constantly accuse others of lying. Someone who secretly feels like a failure will be the first to point out failure in everyone around them. They're not lying. They genuinely believe what they're seeing. But what they're seeing is not reality. It's their own shadow. Wearing someone else's face. Now let's bring this back to you. And back to the person you helped. When you helped them, what did you do? You showed strength. You showed stability. You showed capability. You showed kindness and generosity. All good things, right? But to the person with a wounded shadow, those qualities become a mirror. And mirrors are dangerous when you hate what you see. Think about it. If someone secretly believes they are weak and you come along and act strong, your strength doesn't inspire them. It insults them. If someone secretly believes they are a failure and you succeed where they failed, your success doesn't motivate them. It humiliates them. If someone secretly feels worthless and you treat them with kindness, your kindness doesn't heal them. It reminds them of how undeserving they feel. This is the psychology of the shadow in action. They don't attack you because you did something wrong. They attack you because you reveal something they can't face in themselves. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine a man who has always felt invisible. Growing up, his parents ignored him. At work, his colleagues overlook him. Inside, he carries a deep wound of insignificance. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't even fully admit it to himself. Then one day, you come along. You see him. You help him get a promotion. You introduce him to important people. You make him feel seen. At first, he's grateful. He thanks you. He might even idolize you. But then, something shifts. Slowly, he starts making small comments, little criticisms. He says you're arrogant. He says you think you're better than everyone. He starts distancing himself. And eventually, he turns on you entirely. What happened? He didn't hate you. He hated the reflection you held up. Every time you were confident, It reminded him of his own insecurity. Every time you succeeded, it reminded him of his own failure to matter. Your very existence became a wound he couldn't heal. So he did the only thing his shadow knew how to do. He attacked the mirror instead of fixing his own face. This is not rare. This is not unusual. This is a daily occurrence in families, in friendships, in workplaces, in romantic relationships. The people closest to you are often the ones most threatened by your growth, because your growth shines a light on their stagnation, and the human ego would rather burn a bridge than sit with that shame. Jung wrote that the shadow is not a problem to be solved. It is a reality to be understood. Most people go their whole lives without ever meeting their shadow. They walk around projecting their darkness onto everyone else, convinced that the world is full of terrible people, never realizing that the monster they're fighting is their own reflection. And when you help someone who hasn't done this inner work, you become the screen for their movie. You become the villain in their story, not because you did anything evil, but because you showed them something they couldn't forgive in themselves. Let's go deeper. There's another layer to this that Jung understood better than almost anyone. The shadow doesn't just contain our weaknesses. It also contains our potential strengths that we're afraid to claim. That's called the golden shadow. Sometimes the thing we hate in someone else is actually a quality we possess but have been taught to reject. For example, someone who was raised to believe that being loud is rude will secretly despise outgoing people, but deep down, they wish they had the courage to speak up. Someone who was taught that ambition is selfish will resent successful people, but deep down, they long to go after their own dreams. So, when you help someone, you might not just be showing them your good qualities. You might be showing them the very qualities they've been running from their whole lives. And that is an unbearable feeling. Imagine you help a friend start a business. You give her advice, you lend her money, you connect her with clients. The business grows. She starts making real money. And then one day she stops returning your calls. She avoids you at events. When you finally run into her, she's cold, distant. You hear through mutual friends that she's been telling people you tried to control her business, that you were jealous of her success, that you wanted a cut of her profits. None of it is true. You're confused. You're hurt. But here's what really happened. She always believed she couldn't do it alone. She believed she was the kind of person who needed saving. Then you helped her, and she succeeded. And that success created a crisis inside her, because now she had to admit that she was capable all along, that she didn't need you, that the only thing holding her back was her own fear. That's a painful realization. And instead of feeling grateful to you for showing her that truth, she resents you for being the witness to her old, weaker self. You remind her of who she used to be, and she wants to burn that version of herself alive. Unfortunately, you're attached to it in her mind. This is why so many people betray their mentors, their teachers, their old friends who helped them when they had nothing. It's not just about money or power, it's about identity. When you help someone rise, you become a living symbol of their past dependence. And some people need to destroy that symbol in order to feel like a new person. It's brutal, but it's human. Now, what about the people who don't betray you? What makes them different? Jung would say that the difference is whether someone has begun the work of integrating their shadow. Integration is the process of admitting that the darkness exists inside you, not fighting it, Not pretending it's not there, but saying, yes, I have envy. Yes, I have fear. Yes, I have selfishness. These are parts of me. When someone integrates their shadow, they stop projecting onto others. They stop needing to attack the mirror. They can receive help without feeling humiliated. They can see your success without feeling diminished because they've made peace with their own limitations. They no longer need you to be small so they can feel big. But here's the truth that most self-help videos won't tell you. Most people never do this work. Most people walk around with an unexamined shadow, and they will unconsciously destroy any relationship that threatens their fragile self-image. You cannot change this. You cannot heal them by helping them more. You cannot love them into wholeness. The only person who can integrate their shadow is them. So what do? Do you stop helping people entirely? No, that's not the answer either. But you need to help with your eyes open. Here are 5 lessons from Jung's psychology that will protect you from being destroyed by the very people you try to lift. First, understand that not everyone wants to be saved. Some people want to stay victims. Some people want to stay small. Some people have built their entire identity around being the one who struggles. And when you try to lift them, you're not helping them. You're threatening their identity. Learn to recognize the difference between someone who genuinely wants to grow and someone who just wants a temporary rescue. The first one will thank you. The second one will eventually hate you. Second, never help more than the other person is willing to help themselves. Give advice, but let them take action. Offer resources, but let them reach. Be a guide, not a savior. Because the moment you do more for them than they are willing to do for themselves, you create an imbalance, and that imbalance will turn into resentment. Jung said that the shadow grows in darkness. When you do everything for someone, you keep them in the dark about their own power, and they will hate you for it. Third, watch for the signs of early projection. If someone constantly accuses you of having motives that don't match reality, that's projection. If they say you're arrogant when you've been nothing but humble, that's projection. If they claim you're trying to control them when you've only offered support, that's projection. Don't ignore these signs. Don't explain them away. They are not misunderstandings. They are windows into the other person's shadow. And when you see them, believe what you're seeing. Fourth, learn to step back before the betrayal happens. Most people stay too long. They keep giving because they remember the early gratitude. They keep hoping that the person will return to how they were. But the person was never that grateful person. The early gratitude was a temporary reaction to relief. Now that the relief is gone, the real person is showing up. And that real person has a shadow that cannot stand you. Leave before you become the enemy. Your help is not a contract. You are allowed to walk away. Fifth, and this is the hardest one, accept that some people will betray you no matter how perfectly you help. You cannot control their shadow. You cannot cure their projection. You can only control your own choices. And sometimes the wisest choice is to help from a distance, to give without attaching, to support without expecting loyalty. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. Jung himself said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Part of becoming who you truly are is learning which battles belong to you and which battles belong to someone else's unhealed mind. Let me tell you a final story. There was once a therapist who worked with a young man suffering from severe anxiety. The therapist helped him for 2 years. He gave him tools, insights, support, and genuine care. The young man improved dramatically. He got a job. He started dating. He felt like a new person. And then one day he stopped coming to sessions. A few months later, the therapist heard from a mutual acquaintance that the young man had been telling people the therapist was a fraud, that he had made the anxiety worse, that he had charged too much money. The therapist was devastated. He questioned everything he had done. He wondered if he had made mistakes. But then he remembered Jung's work on the shadow, and he realized what had happened. The young man needed to believe that he had healed himself. He needed to feel that his recovery was entirely his own achievement. But the therapist was a living reminder that he had once been broken. So to protect his new identity, he had to destroy the witness. The therapist didn't take it personally, not because it didn't hurt, but because he understood the mechanism. He understood that the betrayal wasn't about him. It was about the young man's unintegrated shadow. This is the freedom that Jung offers you, not freedom from pain, but freedom from confusion. When you understand the shadow, you stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and start asking, "What was my help reflecting back to them?" And that question changes everything. It takes you out of victimhood and puts you into understanding. And understanding is the beginning of real power. So, if you have been betrayed by someone you helped, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not naive. You are not stupid. You did not deserve it. You simply ran into one of the deepest truths of the human mind. The truth that Carl Jung dedicated his life to uncovering. People do not attack you because of who you are. They attack you because of who they are afraid they might be. Your strength threatened their weakness. Your kindness exposed their shame. Your independence reminded them of their own cage. And instead of breaking the cage, they tried to break you. The next time you decide to help someone, help with clarity. Help without the need to be thanked. Help without the expectation of loyalty. Help because you want to, not because you need to be seen as good. And most importantly, help in a way that leaves their dignity intact. Give them the tools, then step back. Let them build their own house. Because the only help that never breeds resentment is the help that leaves the other person feeling stronger, not indebted. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You have just made some of your darkness conscious today. The darkness of betrayal, the darkness of ungratefulness, the darkness of the human shadow. And that act of consciousness is the first step toward never being blindsided again. If this resonated with you, if you have ever been turned on by someone you lifted up, you are not alone. You are not broken. You are just waking up. And waking up is the hardest thing a human being can do. But it is also the most powerful.